No, I can continue the lecture. I was just looking for my daughter. I was looking for my daughter to join your lecture. So it's all good. All right, are we good? Cool. How's it going, guys? This is just the sales and trading class, right? Cool. How are you finding it so far? Sorry? That's the kind of words I want to hear. Yeah. Did you say cool? You're not working hard enough. Yeah, it shouldn't be cool. No, I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. But like, are you getting the materials? Like, are you understanding the materials and understanding the classes? That's what's important. Yeah. Okay. Studying on your own as well. So just to give you some, sorry, just to give you some heads up. So the Bible event is probably going to happen in September, right? It's happening in September, so that means we'll start making recommendations sometime at the end of next month, August. So essentially, like, you need to step up. You need to step up your performance on assignments, mock interviews, presentations, all that stuff. Okay. Any questions? So I just wanted to give you some feedback from. So is there another joint class? Next week is the next joint class. Next week. Sorry. Saturday. Okay. Okay. Next week Saturday. What time? Okay. Maybe I'll leave this for next week Saturday. No, I can't just give you guys. I can't give you guys alone the update. Okay, let me give you guys. Let me give you guys the update. Okay. And then I'll repeat it again next week Saturday. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, because I have so much time on my hands, I can repeat things. So the feedback essentially is on the technical aspect, there's improvement, but it's still lacking. So for you guys, it's more about improving your stock pitches, improving your understanding of the markets. So a lot of you seem to understand the local market really well, but very few people understand the international market. So usually when that happens is because people aren't reading or watching the news. Okay, so you need to read the news, you need to watch the news to understand what's happening in the international markets as well as the local markets. Okay, more practice needs to be done on the stock pitches. I think that's what Offer spent most of today. What Offer spent most of today working with me on, right? So you should start practicing that on your own, practicing in groups. So practicing that on your own, practicing in groups, and practicing with just doing as much practice as you can. Okay, and if you check online, you can always see, like, stock pick ideas and stock pitch ideas as well. Okay, so that's the main thing on the technical side. And it's the same thing with market updates as well. You need to spend more time practicing how to give market updates. You essentially have all the basic criteria or the basic knowledge that you need to execute these things. It's just about practicing it and getting used to how to, like, articulate it and share it with the lecturers, the interviewers. Okay. Then on the soft skill aspect, a lot of stuff that needs to be done here. It's also about practice. So a lot of the feedback that we're getting is you're not giving answers in a structured, concise format. So remember, we spoke about structures when it came to answering questions, right? Like, I gave that class on the first class, right? So go back to that class. You check the PowerPoint, right? Go back to that class, look at the PowerPoint, and then look at how to structure your answers. Okay? So every answer that you give needs to follow a structure. That it makes you sound like somebody who has thought about what you're going to say, and it makes you look like or sound like somebody who spends time putting things in the right place. Okay, and that's how you know somebody who knows their stuff. All right, so get that structure, and then the second part with the structure is also going straight to the point. Okay, going straight to the point means that you know the answer, you give the answer, but it doesn't mean that you know the answer and you just like, oh, what is 2 plus 2? and then you end it. You can still give a bit of a conversation around it, but it's not like you're rambling to get to the answer. What is two plus two? Well, two plus two, according to Aristotle, could be, you know, one finger here, another finger here, and then you put it together, and that gives you your first two, and then you bring another finger from somewhere else. Like, you get what I'm saying? That's rambling. Okay? So giving answers that are concise, but not like too short. You understand what I'm saying? As I said, it's practice. And then the other thing is confidence level. Okay. Another thing is confidence level. Okay, so it looks like people are still kind of like still a bit scared, or maybe not scared. Maybe scared is not the right word, but like nervous when it comes to these interviews. So if you're nervous with like a mock interview, how are you gonna act on an actual interview where like the stakes are much higher? So remember the sort of tactics that. Do we have any like free class or free time that I can come in next week or something? Yeah, see if we can get, even if it's like 30 minutes or an hour, and then I can go through some other interviewing tactics to sort of like what's it called? Not really to improve your confidence level, but just basically to help you with nervousness and to help you manage nerves. Okay. The number one thing you need to remember is it's unlikely, if you've done your homework, it's unlikely they will ask you anything that you don't already know. Okay. So if you have that at the back of your mind and you have that at the back of your head, it increases your confidence level and makes you feel more, yeah, repeating myself, makes you feel more confident in the information that you're passing across, and it shows. Okay, most times people that are confident know what they're talking about. Most times, right? And there are sometimes people are confident but they don't know what they're talking about. But the thing is that whichever category you fall into, confidence is like a really important thing. And the other thing is like is around the tell me about yourself question. Okay, so there's still gaps in the way you guys are answering that tell me about yourself question. The only advice that I would give is go back to the first class that we had on interviews, look at the structure that I talked about there, and spend some more time going through that structure and practicing amongst yourselves, and also practicing in front of the mirror or something like that, and looking at how you sound, looking at if you make any sense at all. Maybe we should spend some more time giving you more brain teaser questions. Okay, maybe we'll add that to the practice text. Yeah, exactly, to the practice text, because it seems like there isn't really that much of an improvement in the brain teaser, the ability to answer brain teaser questions. So looking at this, right, you're doing okay, okay, but okay is not good enough. So what that means is the technical aspects, which are usually the more difficult parts to learn, right? That one just requires studying. You guys are up to speed on that to some extent. You can spend some more time improving abilities on that aspect of, the preparation. Okay, spend some more time going through the technical materials that you've been taught. Spend some more time doing the stock pitches and practicing, and just reading the news and absorbing the news and absorbing what's going on in the news. Okay, where you need the most effort and you need to spend the most time is on the soft skill aspect, building confidence towards interviews and figuring out how to give structured, concise answers. That comes with practice. Okay, so that's why you've done like 2 practice interviews already. The feedback that we're getting is that compared to the first practice interview, the second one was much better. So that means, okay, there's improvement. Hopefully by the third one, we'll be able to get feedback that you're 100% ready. But for you to get to that point, you need to keep practicing. Okay? So practice, 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 practice is essentially the feedback that the summary of what we're getting from here. Okay, are we good? All right, cool. So today we're going to be talking about portfolio management. Um, so this class is essentially for both people who are interested in. Sorry, sorry, Beatrice. Do I need like a spray or something? Fucking no. Yeah. So it's going to essentially be for those who are interested in investment management. So sales and trading investment management are very closely related because they're essentially about because they both involve like picking securities towards increasing value. Okay, so the difference with so who can tell me here what investment managers do? Anybody? Somebody? Sorry, your name again. Fine, someone. No, investment managers. Yes. So lesson for the day. When you ask the question, make sure you understand the question and you've heard the question before jumping to give an answer. Okay? So investment managers, I mean, do you want to try again? What does that mean? Just give it to me. So, okay, I'm your 5-year-old cousin. Okay, Uncle Sam. What do invest? I heard something about investment managers today. What do they do? What does it mean? What do they do? I'm your 5-year-old cousin. Okay. Wealth. What does wealth mean? Your 5-year-old cousin understands the meaning of portfolio. Your 5-year-old cousin is a genius, so you should be in this class. Anybody else wants to try? Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, my 5-year-old cousin will understand that. So at least you understand what. So an investment manager essentially takes, you know, money from you or capital, and then increases that capital. Okay, that's essentially what investment managers do. But for them to increase that capital, they have to do what? Invest, right? So the question is, how do they choose? I think it's okay. Okay. So how do they choose? So how do they choose what investments or what things to do with your capital? That's essentially what portfolio management is. Okay. So a portfolio is essentially your capital in various forms. Okay. So it's like if you give an investment manager $100 million, right? Your portfolio is $100 million, but it might not be $100 million in cash. It could be $100 million in bonds. It could be in, you know, stocks and all those kind of things, right? So think of a portfolio as something like a bowl of salad, right? So a bowl of salad or coleslaw, which whatever one you want, it will have stuff like carrots, cabbage here, lettuce, some mayonnaise in there. If you're feeling a bit funky, you can put in some raisins and nuts if you want to, right? It's a chicken salad, you can add some slices of chicken breast as well, right? So that's essentially what a portfolio is. It's made up of these different pieces. But the reason why you're picking those different pieces is so that ultimately the value of that portfolio does what? Increases. Now, the question you need to ask is As an investment manager, how do I choose the ingredients or the vegetables to put in my salad, right? How do I choose how do I decide whether I should put lettuce or how do I decide that I should put cabbage? If I decide that I should put cabbage, how much of the cabbage or cabbages should I put into this salad? Okay, if I decide that I want to add mayonnaise, how much mayonnaise or salad cream should I add? You understand what I'm saying? So that's the decision of the the investment manager, okay, in creating a portfolio. But just as people's tastes differ in terms of salad, right? Some people might like to have mayonnaise in their own salad. Some people might say they don't want any salad and instead they want you to season it with vinegar, right? Some people may say they don't like the taste of eggs, sliced eggs, okay? So you take the eggs out, okay? Everybody is different, so that's why every portfolio is different, right? You understand what I'm saying? Now it's the job of the investment manager to determine the best portfolio for each individual. So what we'll do today is discuss how do they go about doing that? How do they go about making those determinations and those decisions? A lot of this is going to be based on your understanding of the characteristics of stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities, all those securities that you've had classes on them, right? Right? No. You haven't had a class on securities. That was the first class. You've forgotten. Yeah, yes, you have. You said you just had knowledge that you don't think. I heard you very clearly. You said you just had knowledge that you don't think you've been taught in class. So you've forgotten. All right. Okay. So please go through everything that you've been taught is important. We're building on all the other stuff that you've been taught. Okay. Okay. No, the first class also included stock on stocks and equities. Yeah, those are securities, right? Yeah, so you've had that class, okay? So hopefully you still remember the characteristics of each of these securities. If you don't, we'll try and do a recap during this class, but I would advise you to go back to that initial class and go through it again, and then go through all your other classes as well, just to stay up to date. Okay? Are we good? Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Cool. So portfolio management starts with one thing. Who or what do you think that is? The client, exactly. The whole idea is to make money for this person. So it's about the client, right? The first thing you need to do is understand who your client is. People differ, right? And people's risk appetite, the period of time that they have, the amount of capital they can put in is also different, right? So you use all those determinations to be able to create a portfolio. The first thing that a portfolio manager tends to look at with the client is risk tolerance or risk appetite. Okay? So some people are happy to take massive risks. Like, 100 million, boom, take it on. Risk means how comfortable are you with losing all the money? Okay? It doesn't mean you will lose all the money, but it just means if you lost the money, would you like hang yourself the next day? Or so would you be on the streets or living out of Bagada Stadium or under Bagada Bridge, right? So different people have different risk tolerance levels. Okay? Some people are happy for you to. Some people have a high risk tolerance, meaning you can take more risk. Some people have a lower risk tolerance, meaning you can take less risk. People who have a higher risk tolerance, essentially what it means is you can put their funds into what? Higher risk investments. Now, why do you think somebody would be willing to take more risk? Sorry, to gain higher returns, exactly. So the higher the risk, the higher the return. So usually people who are willing to take more risk are doing it because they would like to gain more higher returns, right? There's people who are like, well, I mean, I want returns. I'm willing to take some risk, but not too high a risk. So they are willing to take less risk, but they're also comfortable with getting less return. Okay. Closely aligned with risk tolerance is investment horizon. Okay. So when we talk about investment horizon, it's like how long does this person have to keep their money in the portfolio without it needing to turn into cash for them to spend. Okay? Between an older person or a younger person, who would have a longer investment horizon? Sorry? The younger person. Between a very rich person and a middle class person, who would have a longer investment horizon? Why? Why would the very rich person have a longer? Exactly. He or she doesn't have immediate need for the cash, right? So investment horizon is another big thing that you ask about. The reason is because if somebody has, let me put it to you, if someone has a longer investment horizon, how do you think that affects things? Hands. Hands. Anybody? Okay, so that means you guys were not listening. I'm glad I asked this question. If somebody has a longer investment horizon, right, how do you think that would affect the nature of the portfolio or the nature of the investment? Yes, what's your name? Name, fire, yeah. In what? If the person has a longer investment horizon. Why? Why? Okay. Okay. So what does it mean to have a longer investment horizon? No. No. What does it mean to have a long investment horizon? Meaning that you don't have immediate need for the funds, right, to spend it, right? Okay, so I'll ask again. A longer investment horizon means you don't have immediate need for the funds, right? So, how would how would an individual who has a longer investment horizon affect the portfolio or the securities being chosen for the person's portfolio? Yes. Yeah.
So my client with an higher investment horizon,
Longer.
a longer investment horizon,
Yeah.
and does not need the cash immediately, would enable the portfolio to keep on running constantly.
So what does that mean? How does that
Being
affect?
that
Well,
you not
everybody
being not,
expects that their portfolio will keep on
yeah, being
rising.
that you not tapping into the portfolio, will definitely increase it like continuously.
Well, yeah, even if you had a shorter investment horizon, you expect that your portfolio should be increasing.
Yeah, but when you keep on like putting the capital and the profit back
So my
into
question
it,
is that how does it affect the kind of ingredients of the salad in the portfolio, the securities that you choose? Yes. Sorry, what's your name again? Adela. Yeah. Exactly. So since you don't have an immediate need for the funds, I can invest in stuff that will not convert into cash for a long period of time. Okay? So I could what's that called? What's the technical word for stuff that take a longer period of time or are more difficult to convert into cash hands? Something that takes a longer period of time to convert into cash or to sorry? No, that's an accounting term. It's not a trading term. No, those are accounting terms. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Illiquid assets. If an asset is liquid, it's like water. You can change it into cash very quickly. If it's illiquid, it takes a while longer to change into cash. We call current assets, we call current assets because they are liquid. We call non-current assets non-current assets because they are illiquid. Okay? So an investment horizon means, a longer investment horizon means you can invest in more illiquid assets, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that your entire portfolio is going to be made up of the liquid assets. You understand what I'm saying? It just means, say you had 100%, you could put, say, like 70% in illiquid assets, right? And maybe 30% in liquid assets. Got it? So, what are examples of illiquid assets? So, you're a portfolio manager. What are the examples of illiquid assets that you could put money in for somebody with a longer investment horizon? Sorry, illiquid assets. Why do you think a 10-year bond is an illiquid asset? You can sit down, like you don't stand up. Who agrees or who disagrees? Does anyone agree or disagree? A 10-year bond, a liquid asset or a liquid asset? Okay, how many people think a 10-year bond is a liquid asset? Show of hands. Is a liquid asset. Show of hands. How many people feel 10-year bonds are you liquid or illiquid? Okay, how many people feel 10-year bond is an illiquid asset? You can't be on the fence now. Okay, automatically, that means everybody thinks 10-year bonds are illiquid assets. Does anyone want to say why? Okay, why do you feel it's an illiquid asset? Okay. So essentially what you're telling me is if I bought a bond today, I can't change it into cash tomorrow.
Well, you can. You can. But the idea behind it initially,
No. The question is, essentially, if you're saying it's an illiquid asset, if I bought the bond today, I can't change it into cash tomorrow. Huh? Okay, it depends. Yeah, Adela. Yes. Okay. Really? So if I bought a bond, if I bought a US 10-year treasury bond, thank you. There's a mark, anything that has a market, right, is essentially liquid. So a bond is a liquid asset. Because if I bought it today, I can sell it tomorrow. It doesn't matter who you sell it to. The question is the determination of liquidity is how quickly can I get not is there a market? How quickly can I get cash for this entity? If it's possible for me to get cash for a laptop in 2 hours, the laptop is a liquid asset. Why is a house illiquid? Because it usually takes a while to sell a house or convert a house into cash. Right? On average, you might be lucky there may be somebody who desperately needs a house. But on average, it takes a while to convert a house to cash. But something like a bond, if I bought the bond today and I wanted to sell it, there will be somebody who is willing to sell that bond. Right? You understand what I'm saying? So who wants to try again, right? So we said, what are examples of illiquid assets? Yes. Sorry? Thank you. Artwork is an example of an illiquid asset. So portfolio managers sometimes buy artwork, right? Like sculptures or paintings, and they buy them and they keep them in a gallery. But say you had a painting that's worth $100 million, right? It doesn't necessarily mean raised up your hand and said, "Hey, I have a painting of $100 million to sell, or $20 million to sell," you'll get somebody within 5 minutes to buy it back from you, right? What else is an example of an illiquid asset? Yeah, sorry, real estate, exactly. Real estate tends to be an illiquid asset. All right. Yes, Fiona. So Diola's question is, sorry, are people streaming in? Yeah, nobody's asking questions. Am I the person who announced? Are there? Oh, okay, you're checking in on. Okay. So guys online, make sure you ask your questions. Okay. I'll also ask questions from people online as well. Yeah, okay, good. So I have answered that question. So someone is saying a 10-year bond is not is illiquid because it can't be converted. We've already established the fact that it is a liquid asset because if I went into the bond market, I would find somebody to sell that bond to in like 2 minutes or like a minute if I wanted to sell the bond. Okay. So the last question is how are artwork valued, right, or valuated depending on which country you're asking for. So the thing is that there are actually formulas. There are people whose work is to value artwork. Usually it's based off of a few things like scarcity, who the painter is, all those kind of things, right? So like usually if it's a painter that everybody is like hot for, you understand, the value of that painter's artwork begins to increase. Okay, if it's something that is scarce, so let's say that painter only painted, it's a famous painter and he only painted two paintings in his entire life. You understand what I'm saying? Of course, those two paintings are going to be worth a lot, right? If it's an example of a painting that's very popular and that people want to purchase, that increases the value of the painting. So it's a few varied parameters. Sorry? No, it has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. It's just a question of demand and supply of it's one of those things where value is I can't remember the right word to use, but value is just created by people's perception. Yeah, value is perceptive. You understand that like, oh, this guy is a great artist. I want a piece of his work. And then now everybody wants a piece of that work, right? So you now have to bid for a demand and supply basically. Okay. Another type of illiquid asset would be private holding in a company, holdings in a private business, right? Because it's a private entity, it's not, you can't really just show up and say, hey, I want to sell, I don't know, an example of a private, I want to sell Deola Sugar Plant, which is a private company. Deola Sugar Plant Limited. I want to sell it. You understand what I'm saying? Like private equity holdings are examples of illiquid assets. Okay? Okay, what about hedge funds? Are hedge funds assets? What's a hedge fund? Let her answer now. What's a hedge fund? No. No. So that's your assignment. Go and figure out what hedge funds are. Okay? And I will ask you again next week Saturday. Alright? Okay. Are we yeah, Sam. Sorry? Exactly. Gold is an illiquid asset, right? Like it is an illiquid asset, yeah. A physical gold bar. A physical gold bar is an illiquid asset, right? Yeah. So physical gold bar is an illiquid. When you're trading gold on the market, you're not actually buying a physical gold bar. What you're buying is a contract to a physical gold bar. So that's what's easily tradable. But when you own a physical gold bar, it's an liquid asset, but it's an asset. Okay? Anything else? You cool? Cool. So what are examples of liquid assets? Sorry? Um okay. Yeah, okay, we'll let that pass, yeah. Weak, yes. Okay. Much better examples you come up with. Yes. Exactly. Publicly traded equities, right? Public anything that is public. What is that noise? What is that? You? Oh, publicly traded equities, publicly traded bonds, right? Anything that has a public market that you can easily buy and sell on is an example of a liquid asset. Okay. What's the most liquid asset? Thank you. Cash is a liquid asset. How long will it take you to convert cash to cash? 0 seconds, right? Exactly. So, for someone that has a longer investment horizon, you can give what? More illiquid assets and less liquid assets. Okay? Now, the next question we'll be thinking about is why would I want to put more money in illiquid assets? Because sometimes illiquid assets can also give you a higher return, right? So, for example, sometimes if you bought a private company, it could grow faster than a publicly traded, sometimes, right? It could grow faster than a publicly traded private company, public company. You understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? Right. So that's one good thing about liquid and illiquid assets. And the same thing, if you had a shorter horizon, you would want to put it into more. Oh, sorry, that's not that doesn't make any sense. Sorry. You want to put in less illiquid assets and more liquid assets. The reason is because somebody with a shorter time horizon has what? Has what? Exactly, has a quicker need for their cash. So you need to be able to put it in stuff that like we can easily break it down to convert into cash for that individual. Are we good? The other thing about an investment horizon is apart from the fact that it can determine apart from the fact that it can determine whether you're putting it into liquid, predominantly liquid or illiquid assets, right? The second thing that it could also determine is, can you guess? If I have less need for my cash, less immediate need, thanks. If I have less immediate need for my cash, what does that allow me to do? If I have less immediate need for my cash, what does that allow me to do? Why? So if I can if I have a longer period to grow the portfolio, I should take less risk. Who agrees? Who disagrees? Who doesn't know? Yeah.
Longer time investor doesn't necessarily take lower necessarily look for uh, return and stability. So I think
So someone looking for returns with stability is essentially lower risk. Because that means you're looking for lower reward. You're looking for lower beta. We'll talk about that more. Less fluctuations. More stability means less fluctuations. Less fluctuations usually means less expected return. You'll see that when we talk about the capital asset pricing model. Okay, so a what longer time horizon means you can take what less risk because you have a longer period of time. Absolutely false. Think about it. Why does a younger person have higher risk tolerance? What's your name? Chinaya. So what does that mean? Okay, so because you're working, you can take higher riskier investments. Okay, you're almost there. Almost there. You're getting closer.
It's broke out time and made it up.
Bless you. That's exactly the answer. If you have a longer time horizon for investment, you know that if it all goes to next to zero, you still have some time to get it back up to somewhere that's reasonable. And that's the reason why a younger person can take more risk. Because the younger person knows that, okay, if I'm 25, I have what, 35 years of service, right? So if out of the 35 years of service, by 15 years, after 15 years of saving or of investing, it goes to zero, I still have 15 years to build it up to something. But if I have 10 years of service left, right, at if it all goes to zero 7 years in, right, I have only 3 years to get it. You can't get it as high up as somebody who has 15 years. You understand what I'm saying? So the other thing with investment, so let's go back to my initial question. What's the other impacts that investment horizon would have on the type of portfolio, or on how you invest the portfolio? So somebody with a longer time horizon would mean you can take more risk. Exactly. So it affects risk tolerance, right? So if you have a shorter time horizon, you take a little less risk. Okay? So one, you want to put it in more liquid assets because the person is going to need their cash sooner. And you also want to put it in less risky assets because you want to do what? There's a technical term for it. Preserve the capital. Right? You want to do what? Preserve the capital. But in the case of a shorter time, in the case of a longer time horizon, you can take more illiquid assets because the cash isn't needed immediately. And you can also take more risk because the person has a lot more time to recoup any losses and doesn't have as much of a need to preserve capital. They're more focused on what? Growing capital. Does that make sense? Any questions? Any questions? Awesome. Cool. Are we good? So the third piece is investor skill, investor status. Now, in most jurisdictions, in most countries, before you can make an investment, there are certain types of investments that are restricted to certain types of people, certain types of investor. Many of them are called accredited investors. So there's some investments that you can't make on behalf of an individual unless that individual is what is called an accredited investor. Usually, these are for more risky investments. And then the determination of whether an investor is accredited or not usually lies in that investor's net worth. So, essentially, there are some investments that tend to be more risky that are reserved for people who have higher net worth. Why do you think that is? Please, hands up before you answer the question. Yes. Yeah, put it in. So at this point now, you should be using financial terms. Put it in like something that sounds sweeter to the financial ear. Who else wants to try? Yes, Sam.
For I like that's it doesn't mean that that is the only investment they have. You have like players it's just a stock and you can't really affect. Yeah.
So that's called what? In fact, actually, that's called what? If one goes down, you're protected So that's called what? No. If something goes down, you're protected from that thing that goes down. Happened to Job. Job broke the thing. Have you ever heard of the word hedge before? So a high net worth individual is what? Better hedged because they are diversified. Thank you. At this point, you guys should be using those kind of terms. Hedged, diversified. The word that you were saying that I was looking to hear was they have more time, they have more capital to what? Recoup losses. So if you're somebody who has a higher net worth, it's a few things. One, they're diversified. Two, they have more capital to recoup losses. And then the last thing is the thinking is if you've built your net worth up to a level, you're probably better educated financially. So you're better educated to make better financial decisions. Okay? And then financial education. So the thinking is if you are a teacher, sorry, let me not say teacher. If you are somebody whose entire net worth is 100,000 naira and you've been working for 10 years, the thinking is one, if you lost 50,000, you're done. So you can't recoup your losses. It's more difficult. Sorry, it's more likely that that 100,000 is in a few, as maybe in your house or in your car, or it's in a few assets. So you're not really well diversified. And the third thing is, if after working for 10, 15 years, the best you've been able to accumulate is 100,000 in assets, right? It's not likely that you're as well financially educated to be able to make financial decisions. You should leave it to somebody who is better educated or more informed or more capable. Okay? So this tends to be the reasons why they leave some riskier investments for what we call accredited investors. So as a portfolio manager, if your investor isn't accredited, you tend to take different investment decisions. Okay? Pop quiz. Also for those who are online, right? What's the most common portfolio manager for unaccredited investors? Give me two examples of portfolio managers for unaccredited investors. Very common. You hear them about them all the time. Yes, Biola. You can sit down. This isn't primary school. For unaccredited investors. Okay? Okay? Okay. Hedge funds and mutual funds. Any answers online? No answers online yet. Okay? Anybody else? Any answers online? Come on, guys, online. Give me an answer. Give me an answer. Nobody else wants to give me a different answer. So you all agree with that, right? Hedge funds and mutual funds. What?
mutual funds probably represent
So wait. Okay, yes. Wait. Hold on. Any answers online? Okay, cool. So ding. Rumble in the jungle. Okay. Diola says hedge funds, mutual funds. Taiwo says real estate. Says he doesn't agree with hedge funds. Okay. Now, why don't you agree with hedge funds? Yes, yes. That's the very definition of an accredited investment, yeah?
So means like hedge funds actually borrow a large sum of money from I don't even know. That's what hedge funds do.
Hedge funds don't borrow money.
The two funds from high net worth investors, they make investments that are highly risky.
Okay.
So from that you can know that their clients or their investors will not
You feel that their clients will be accredited in. Okay, Diola, what is your own counter to that?
the fact that they are unaccredited will mean that they are allowed to make self-investment decisions to
What's an accredited investor?
the investor or investor like an high individual that has really lot of money take this
Okay, but that's the very opposite of what you said. So who's an unaccredited investor?
and therefore that is not self-pay.
No.
Someone at least there, someone who is
Yes.
accredited.
Yes.
So the person that there is the body that accredits the investment
I never said that any of this. I don't know where you're coming up with all this. So now there's a body that gives out an accreditation to invest. No. No. Okay. Either you weren't listening or you didn't understand. Yeah. Okay. Chinaya. Oh, oh, you are trying to add. No, no, no. We've not resolved hedge funds. No hedge funds. So the answer is hedge funds. Absolutely not. In fact, the number one criteria to give money to a hedge fund is to be an accredited investor. You cannot give cash, you cannot give capital to a hedge fund without being an accredited investor. Everybody seems to be so enamored with hedge funds. You've been watching Billions, I mean, that's why you get excited about hedge funds. Everybody seems to be excited about hedge funds, but know nothing about hedge funds. Right? Hedge funds make risky investments. So, who are accredited investors? Accredited investors are people who, by virtue of their net worth, they are allowed to have access to more risky assets or more risky investments. Sorry? It's not who are the law. They're legally allowed. So once you hit a net worth, so it's like I want to make, so like you call somebody up, I want to make an investment in risky asset in asset A that is risky and only for accredited investors. Oh, okay. You want to make an investment into this asset. What is your net worth, sir? My net worth is $200,000. Sorry, sir, you are not an accredited investor. You cannot make, it's literally that simple, right? So it's a question of what is your net worth. So once you hit a certain net worth, bam, you automatically become, it's like being born again. You just hit the net worth just like that. You are an accredited investor. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not like exactly. It's not like you're going to write exam. I feel like I want to become an accredited investor today. I'm going to write this. I'm going to write my application to the School of Investor Accreditation, and then they review my materials and everything, and then they reply to me, "Congratulations, Mr. Diola, you are now an accredited investor." No, that's not how it works. Okay, it is just basically means once you hit a certain net worth, you are automatically an accredited investor. And if you wanted to make an investment into a riskier venture, certain asset classes, right, you are allowed to do so. So that brings us back to, so mutual funds, yes. We're looking for one more. Pension funds, exactly. Those are the most common funds for like unaccredited investors. Pension funds and mutual funds. Remember what I said about this person that only has 100K? More often than not, the person doesn't have enough financial education to make their own financial investments themselves, right? So what's the best thing to do? Give it to the experts. Who are the experts for retail clients? Mutual funds. or put it in a pension fund. That's it, right? Good? Cool. Any questions? Any questions? Yeah, sure, Tyrell.
In addition, we have
Yes.
asked that when you make a million
Yes.
and you are investing,
Yes.
how will you invest?
Beautiful. How would you invest $1 million?
Did you ask, she didn't necessarily ask all the questions.
Exactly. That's why we're going through this class, right? First question is like, oh, for example, who's my client? That shows immediately that you understand the concept of, you know, of portfolio management. So the first question you might ask would be, oh, am I investing on behalf of a client or am I investing on behalf of the company, right? The interviewer probably didn't even anticipate that you would ask that, but like, oh yeah, this guy is thinking because he knows that that would affect his investment. And then if he says, oh, you're investing on behalf of the client, it's like, okay, what kind of client is it? Like somebody with a high risk tolerance, or lower risk tolerance, or a younger client? Is it at that point the person already knows that this person knows what they're talking about. Can you let me finish what I'm saying? At that point, this person will know that this person knows what they're talking about and can be like, oh, okay, okay. You know what? Just forget about all those things. Just like invest for this guy. High risk tolerance. He's 23 years old. He has $100 million. He's an accredited investor. And then if you want to, oh, so that means an accredited investor. Okay, this is how I would make my investment. But you've signaled that you understand a lot of these things for portfolio management. Yes, Fiona, what's your question?
Even though I should do one step in the day,
How?
if you can go and say, okay, you just do anyone, then you don't do the time, just keep the stuff. But what if you can wear everything? Like, you know, like, what if you can wear this step?
Yeah, but he's giving a spec. So his question was invest $100 million. He has given you no spec. So you are not asking for the guidelines around which you make that investment. That's why you're asking, who am I investing for? Am I investing for a client or am I investing for the company?
That would mean that you have to prepare more than one step because let's say that you are
Pause. What was your question?
doing how is it investing?
Lesson. What's the lesson here? What's the lesson? Diola, what's the lesson? No, that's not the lesson. What is the lesson? Listen and understand the question. He wasn't asking you to pitch him a stock. He was asking you. So if you give somebody $100 million, right? Would you expect the person to put that $100 million in one stock? No. He's asking you, how would you disperse my portfolio? It's a portfolio management question. Listen and understand the question. Yes, Chinere. It actually does, yeah. But the thing is, like, what if it's not a client? What if it's the bank? So the validation, you have a good point, right? Of course, if it's a client, yes, that's obviously a high net worth individual. You don't need to ask if the person is accredited. I think the limit for accreditation is I'll double check, but I think it's about $2 million or so, or 10. So I think it's $10 million. No, it's not. It's not. It's a million. It's $1 million. So what? So once you get, I'll double check and I'll let you know before the end of the day. But I think it's $1 million. So once you get to a net worth of $1 million, right? When somebody gives you $100 million, of course, he has significantly more than a net worth of $100 million. So it's clearly accredited. Well, you will ask what kind of client, right? He might, yes, yes. So, what if it's somebody with a low risk tolerance? I'm giving you 100 million, but I want you to preserve my capital. Would your investment decisions be different from somebody who says, giving you 100 million, just make me money, do whatever it takes? Would your investment decisions differ? How and why? Riskier assets, exactly. So that's actually a valid question. What is, you can be more specific and say, okay, what's the client's risk tolerance? You understand what I'm saying? What's the client's risk tolerance? That's a useful question. A silly question would be, is he an accredited investor? Really? He's giving you 100 million bucks. You need to ask. Really? It's like saying, oh, he just bought a house in Banana Island. Does he have money? Really? You need to ask. Yes, Sam. Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So the fact that he's accredited doesn't mean that he has to take risky investment. It just means he has the option to if he wants to, right? But if he tells you he has a low risk tolerance, so I don't lose my money, that's essentially what it means. Any other question? So that's a really good question. That's a very common interview question. How would you invest 100 million bucks? If I give you 100 million right now, how would you invest it? Right? Answering it in that pattern shows that you understand like finance, okay, and you understand investing. Any other question? No. Okay, so all this refers to one thing: understanding who your client is. You're trying to know the level of risk. You're trying to know how long they have money to invest for. You're trying to know what their status is. So once you understand the client, what's the next step? Huh? Sorry? Exactly, choosing your assets. You understand who the person is. The next thing is actually doing the work. We call that what? Asset allocation. Thank you. We call that asset allocation. Now, in a typical investment management firm, the investment managers tend to have ratios of asset allocation, right? And the ratios look at different things. The ratios look at liquidity. What are the key things you're looking at? Liquidity and risk, right? So you might have somebody who is happy to be illiquid because he has what? A longer time horizon, yeah, and he's happy to take high risk because he has a higher risk tolerance. Exactly, perfect. So usually you would go through all these things. Hello, I have $100 million to invest. I plan to leave it with you guys. I don't really need the money for like another like 10 years. You can hold on to it. Do whatever it takes. I'm more interested in growing the capital. What would somebody who is risk averse, what would he say regarding his capital? I'm more interested in preserving my capital. Exactly. Fantastic. So you, as an investment manager or portfolio manager, you take all this information, and then more often than not, in an investment bank, you would have like, a schedule that shows you how to allocate the assets. And then the assets tend to be allocated amongst your regular stuff, right? Stocks, well, of course, the first thing, cash, stocks, bonds, real estate, apps work, private business. Huh? What? Yeah, sure, movies. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. Yeah, movies. Yeah, private business, VC, PE, right? Movies. Something I'm missing here. Yeah, commodities. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, 100%. Bitcoin. Yeah. Leave them on that commodities for now. Okay. Now, let's play a little game. Who wants to volunteer? You like you put your it's fine. You want to volunteer? Fantastic. $1,000 on the line. Get a correct answer. Okay. Good. How would you have 100 million, right? Dollars. Okay. How would you allocate assets for this individual? He wants low. He's happy to have low liquidity, and he wants you to grow his capital. Give me actual numbers against all of these. So the cash, how much would you put in cash? 2 million in cash out of your 100. Okay. Yeah. 50. 15. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah, let's up now. We've not got to 100 yet. Who's adding? Who's adding? So, okay, we have 39 to go. DC, yeah. DCPE, yeah. 15%. Okay. Still haven't changed now. I have 24 left. Yeah. You can add to any of these other ones if you want to. Okay. You have 14 left. Maybe 7. Okay, you have 7 left. You have 7 left. So we let's say 24. No, you have 7 left. Oh, okay, sorry, 20. Oh, 17. Okay, so that's 24, I believe. Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. We're not done yet. I have questions. I'm the client. I've looked at this. Okay. Fair. Why are you putting more in real estate than you are in stocks and bonds?
Due to the fact that let's say it's illiquid.
Okay.
Yeah, illiquid.
Okay.
The liquidity of real estate is less compared to bond stock.
Okay. But what if I told you that historically real estate has provided lower returns than stocks and bonds? Would that change your setup?
Yes.
Okay. How would it change your setup? Give me numbers.
18, then 20,
You would raise your stocks to 20.
yeah,
Okay. You would raise your bonds to 10. Okay.
and
This will then you take this down to 16. Okay. Okay. Why are you investing more in art than you are in stocks and bonds? Than you are in bonds, for example, as much as you are in stocks.
Um, Upwork figures the factor
Okay.
compared to um, compared to Georgia and stuff. And
Okay.
typically Upwork tends to build more returns compared to bonds. So
You show me that. You show me that data, man. But okay. But problem with art though is that my art could get burnt tomorrow.
yeah,
That's the risk.
yeah, exactly. So the return
You don't want to hedge my risk. You don't want to help me hedge my risk.
that's why you invest in stuff like real estate and
Oh, by putting in real estate, you've hedged my risk.
yeah,
Okay. Why did you put as much as 15% in VCPE?
um, private businesses have high growth potential. So
You see after, I owe you 1K. This is fantastic. Give him a round of applause. This is fantastic. Like, totally understand the reasoning behind each of these portfolio allocations and stuff like that. To be honest with you, what you just did is essentially what an investment manager does and gets paid lots of money. The only difference is there will be a lot more thought and calculations into how to put precisely what where, and then there are a lot of schedules into okay how much you. So for example, I wouldn't have put that much in artwork. I probably would have put a bit less. More often, you don't put that much in artwork. You put a bit more in stocks and bonds because you really want to like grow the capital, right? You want stuff that has the potential to grow the capital. Probably would do about the same allocation in VC and PE. That sounds about right. I like the movies idea. Usually they put a bucket of like others with like very sexy, weird, crazy investment opportunities, and then 7 to 10% inside that one makes sense because like you want to play around with it as well. Really good work. Really, really good work. So he has explained asset allocation, and we're done. So essentially, the reasoning behind each of these is each asset has its own criteria, has its own characteristic. So stocks, for example, they're liquid, but they're high risk. They're liquid. The type of stock you choose determines the level of risk, but of course, they are less or more risky than bonds. Which of the two? They're riskier than bonds, exactly. But the type of stock determines the risk level. So if you're picking a stock for like a young, freshly IPO'd company, the risk profile of that stock is different from the stock of, say, Coca-Cola that has been on the stock market for like 20, 30 years. You understand what I'm saying? So that also will determine the specific stocks you choose as a part of that portfolio. Okay? Something like, what else did we put there? Like VC, for example, has a higher potential for growth, but it's a lot riskier and it's a lot more illiquid. So those each, asset class has its own specific characteristics. Okay, so let's just play around. The characteristics we're looking at is what? Liquidity, more often, let's keep it to two, and risk profile. So bonds, give me liquidity, risk profile, high or low. Bonds, anybody? Bonds. Who wants to try it? Yes, Tyro. There's no 1,000 naira again. Don't worry, forget about it. Yes, Tyro. Bonds are liquid and have a lower risk profile. Fantastic. Real estate. Anybody else? Yes. Illiquid. Yeah. Okay. Higher risk profile. Higher risk profile. The answer is that it actually depends. It could either be lower risk or higher risk, just like stocks. Depends on the type of real estate you're talking about. Real estate investment trusts rates. Yes. Rates. Have you heard of a rate before? Who wants to give that a try? Yes, rates. REITs. Liquid and lower risk. Why? Really? For a rate? How so? This is what I'm saying. Rates. Real estate investment trust. Talking about rates. Does anybody know what a rate is? What's a rate? Whose phone is that? Okay, it's a phone. Yeah, what's a rate?
Like a fund for where investors do capital to invest in real estate.
Fantastic. That's exactly what a rate is. So a rate is basically a portfolio of real estates. So people pull funds into that into the fund. That's the rate, and then they can then the manager of the rate then purchases different types of real estate. Okay. So who wants to try again, or do you want to try again? Liquidity and risk profile. Illiquid. Okay.
Then this profile depends on the manager.
Okay. Incorrect. Who else wants to try? You wanted to try? No, that's what you wanted to say. Okay. Yes, Taiwo. Illiquid, okay. Okay. Incorrect. Let me give you the Ojoro. Yes. Okay. Okay, so you said liquid. Okay, risk profile. Incorrect. The correct yeah. Let me use the correct answer. Correct answer is liquidity, liquid, risk profile. It depends. So you are off by one. You said it was illiquid. Does anybody know the reason why a rate is liquid? No.
There's an agreement that you get. Because it's edging is other people.
You know you talk about rate. Do you know why the rate is liquid? Thank you. It has a market. The market rates are actually publicly traded. Rates are tradable. So essentially, when you buy, rates are like mutual funds for real estate. You know your mutual fund piece, you can sell it. Somebody else can buy your mutual fund piece from you, right? Essentially, when they create a rate, they will say we're creating $100 million rate, right? We're giving you say 100 pieces, right? At $1 million each. So if you give me $1 million today, I give you one piece, right? I can take that one piece and sell it off to somebody else, right? But the value of this one piece, what do you think is hand? What do you think determines the value of this one piece that I bought? Yes, Taiwo. Eh? No. Then thank you. God bless you. The value of the underlying portfolio. So when I started, I gave when I said I gave you $1 million to buy real estate with, right? We pulled million everywhere, 100 pieces, 100 million. Use that to buy real estate. You bought, you built a new mall in Bagada for 100 million. 2 years later, that mall is now worth 200 million, right? So that my one piece has gone from being worth $1 million to what? 2 million. The determination of the value of my piece is the value of the underlying real estate portfolio. Okay? So rates are actually tradable. So even though I bought my rate for $1 million, if I look at the value and I say, the thing has gone to 1.5 and it's looking like this thing is increasing, I can say, okay, no, I'm not selling for $1 million, I want to sell it for 2. So rates are relatively liquid. Okay? Right? So basically that's what you need to know when it comes to asset allocation. So you're looking at the profile of the client, the risk tolerance, investment horizon, investor status, right? And you're then looking at the various assets that you have access to, right? And using the characteristics of those assets weighed against the profile of your client to make your asset allocation decision. And so we come to the end of portfolio management. That's essentially all it is. Okay? But the key things that you need to understand here are the type of assets that we have and the characteristics of these assets. But you can see that it's pretty straightforward, right? Once you understand the underlying principles, right? One or two other things that I... Right? The other question that you can ask is, how do I determine what to add or what to take away from a portfolio? Right? Essentially, when you're adding or taking away something from the portfolio, what are you trying to do? You are trying to improve the performance of that portfolio, right? So maybe before you were weighted towards stocks. It's very liquid, but the stocks you bought are like very stable stocks. So the growth isn't doing too well. What will you need to do? You sort of need to change the kind of stocks that you've purchased and all that, right? So sometimes that's called rebalancing, right? You want to rebalance your portfolio. You understand? But there's some mathematical formulas, actually a few, but there's a very common mathematical formula that I think I could explain to you that is then used to determine whether adding this or taking this away from the portfolio would improve the performance of the portfolio or reduce the performance of the portfolio. So the most common formula that's used is, I think the third thing that we need to talk about is performance. Okay? The most common formula that is used is what is called the CAPM. It stands for capital, your father. Capital asset pricing model. You've already done this in class, right? No, okay. So the capital asset pricing model essentially is trying to give you an expected return on a certain asset class or security, right, based on the risk. So it's giving you a risk-adjusted expected return. You get what I'm saying? Now, is there a difference between a security in which I could make a 10% return, but it is very likely, it is very risky? Okay, sorry, let me do it like this. I can make a 10% return, but there is a 90% chance I will lose my money, versus a security that will make a 20% return, right? No, sorry. A security that makes a 10% return, and there's a 60% chance that I will lose my money. Let me switch that around. A security that will give me a 10% return, but there's a 60% chance that I will lose my money, versus a security that will give me a 20% return, but there's an 80% chance that I will lose my money. Hands up, which would you invest in? No, it doesn't have nothing to do with being accredited or not. Yes. So what's your name? Toby. Yeah, okay. But there's an 80% risk that you lose your money. Why would you do that?
The percentage, the fraction of what I will lose to what I will gain
Yeah.
is higher than the fraction of what I lose to what I will gain to the other.
Okay. But that's just for you. Right? Okay. So you're probably like in your 20s, right? What if you were like 75? Would you still make that decision? You would still make the decision to invest 20% or 80%. No, Should I tell you the answer to that question? There's actually no correct answer. It depends, right? You are obviously somebody who is who has a high risk tolerance, okay? But most 70-year-old or 80-year-old people, right, might want to preserve their capital and say, put it in this one. This is less likely I'll lose my money. Shouldn't even considering this one, Abi. Because what the risk is too high, Abi. Yeah, but I'm saying I'm constraining your options. You must pick one of the two. But the point I'm trying to make is all these decisions, what are you doing? You're basically comparing the level of the return that you're getting, and you're comparing it against how risky this investment is, right? All these discussions we've done has been from like I feel like, but they're actually mathematical formulas that help you know whether if you adjust for the risk, that investment makes any sense. Yes, Taiwo, you have a question.
In terms of 10%, 10
No, it doesn't. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work. The point I'm trying to make by making this analogy is that investment decisions are usually risk adjusted. So you wouldn't just look at it and say, 20% return. God damn it, I'm making this, man. I'm going for this. You understand? Or 10% return fits it perfectly. You don't look at it in isolation. You are always weighing it against the risk. You understand what I'm saying? So let me even give you like a real life example. So right now, Nigerian treasury bills are about, you probably get it for like 10.5%, right? It's a Nigerian treasury bill. 30-day CD, 30-day bill, right? Have you heard of farm crowding? Farm crowding. They have a trough of investment. They want you to invest in chickens. Annualized return, 20%. Right? Where would you put your money? You had a choice of one. Where would you put your money? No, I'm talking about you personally. And tell me why. Sorry? You would rather put your money in T-bills. Why? As in, that means you. Sorry, what's your name? Abdul Basit would rather put your money in T-bills. That's your own decision. Okay, fine. Why? That's annualized 10%. Yeah. How about boss? Calm down. Calm down, man. No, annualized 10% over 30 days. So, would you still make that decision? Huh? You would still make that decision. Why? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Chickens will die. Okay. So what if now I told you that like Midway Insurance is insuring the farm 100%? So you won't get your investment back. You wouldn't get your returns, but you get your investment back. Would that change your decision? So what? You like money too much. So it's still another example of what I'm talking about, right? Investment decisions are made on a risk-adjusted basis. So not purely based on, the level of, not purely based on the return itself, right? So the question now becomes, how do I weigh two investments? How do I know that on a risk-adjusted basis, 10% return with 60% risk of loss is better or worse than 20% return on an 80% risk of loss? Okay? That's what the capital asset pricing model helps you to do. It gives you a risk-adjusted return. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why you can then use it to do a relatively apples to apples comparison. Okay? Now, The formula is pretty simple. So your risk adjusted return equals what we call your risk free rate plus beta into bracket or times your market risk premium minus your risk free rate. Right? So let's explain what this formula actually means. Right? We need to understand it so the underlying this, if you understand what this formula means, it also sort of explains to you the mindset or the thinking of investors or how people make investment decisions. Okay? Now, your risk-free rate means is what? Anybody wants to guess? Risk-free rate. What does that mean? Okay. So risk-free rate essentially means your return in that market if there was no risk at all. So if I was taking zero risk, conventions that the minimum that I would make would be my risk-free rate. So in a market in which if I bought government bonds for 10% and somebody gave me an investment with a return of 7%, would it make any sense to take that investment? No, because your investment cannot be less risky than the government. Who are you? Right? But you are giving me a lower return than somebody who is giving me less risk. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the first determination. This is basically your baseline return. You cannot earn anything. It makes no sense to earn anything less than the risk-free rate. Because that is zero risk, this is what I would earn in the market. Okay? Beta refers to volatility. So what it means is by how much would the value of this investment change if the market moved in either direction? So if the market increased by 1, would the value of this investment increase by 1 or increase by 2? What is the correlation with the market? Because what that means is if the correlation, not correlation, volatility. Sorry. So what that means is if the market increases by 1 and this security increases by 3, it also means that if the market reduced by 1, the security will do what? Reduce by 3. You understand what I'm saying? So that makes it more risky. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now so that means that like if the volatility is higher, right, you're expecting more of a return. But if the volatility is also higher, there's also greater risk. So that's what this data is measuring. Does that make any sense? Right? Now, RM basically means the minimum market return for that market for most tradable securities. Right? And RF you already have is the risk period. So essentially what this formula is doing is helping you to determine that, is helping you to factor in, this is the minimum return that I can ever get with zero risk. I am now adding on this level of volatility. The risk is basically volatility. It just basically means if the market switches in either direction, by how much am I going to be hit? So I have, this is my minimum. I am now adding on this factor of volatility, right, to justify the risk that I'm taking on. That's what gives me the minimum return that I can take in, right? I can give you specific numbers here because like most times beta is usually calculated from like a schedule There are companies who provide data. RM is also calculated from the schedule. There are companies that provide that. So usually in a bank, you have specific numbers for all this. Okay? So when you then find out the risk adjusted return for a specific security or stock or whatever, right? That then helps you determine whether it makes sense to add it to your portfolio or take it away from your portfolio. So let's say you had a portfolio that's performing at 10% per annum, right? You were trying to decide whether you wanted to add a certain stock, Teddy Bear Inc. stock. But you do your risk, you do your capital for Teddy Bear Inc. stock, and risk adjusted, it's an 8% return. Does it make sense to add it to the portfolio or take it or not add it? Does it make sense to add it to the portfolio? Your portfolio is doing 10%. You have Teddy Bear Inc. stock, you're just trying to decide to add it in. You did a CAPM, your CAPM comes to 8%. Does it make sense to add it to your portfolio? No, because risk adjusted, it's actually going to take your portfolio down. So you're keeping it out. Okay, so that's how investment managers also make asset allocation decisions. Okay? The other thing that we should mention under performance is, so we'll just talk about like the way the market performs, the way the market works. There's no serious like technical aspect here. Investors usually benchmark themselves against standards or benchmarks. The most common benchmark is usually like an index, like a market index. You've done market indices, right? Like the FTSE, like the S&P, all those kind of things. The thinking is this: I made no effort. I didn't do any thinking. I didn't do anything, right? I just took my money and I put it in all the stocks in the FTSE 100, right? I do not need to think, right? I just took my money, bought all the stocks in the FTSE 100 and left it alone, right? Should I make more money or less money than somebody who is doing calculations, he's talking to clients about their needs, he's doing asset allocations, he's getting paid a certain salary, etc., etc.? Should that person make more money or less money than the index? More money, because with the index, I'm making no effort. I'm just putting my money in like a bunch of stocks that somebody else has determined and walking away and not thinking about it, right? So what most asset managers do or portfolio managers do is they then benchmark themselves against these indexes. So they want to say, okay, is my portfolio outperforming the index or it is underperforming the index, right? So that's the first thing. They also benchmark themselves against other portfolio managers, because as an investor, if one portfolio manager is making you 10% return a year, another one is making you 15% return a year, who would you rather give your money to? 15% return a year, right? So that's another level of performance management. And then the final thing that you probably ask is, so I'm a portfolio manager, how do they make their money? Okay, I'm doing all this work for you. How do you make their money? There are usually two ways that they make their money. They first make the money by taking a management fee, which is usually a percentage of their total capital that you give them to manage. More often than not, that's about 2%. So if you gave a portfolio manager $100 million, every year they would take $2 million for managing that portfolio, right? Well, they would take 2% of the value of that portfolio for managing the portfolio. So if you gave them $100 million this year, they would take how much? 2% for managing the portfolio. The next year they're going from 100 to 150, they would then take how much? 3 million for managing the portfolio, right? The second compensation that the portfolio manager makes is they earn a percentage of the increase on the portfolio, right? So they started with 100%, 100 million. The next year they built it to 150. The increase is what? 50 million. Usually they earn 20% of that increase, right? So of that 50 million, Oga will earn 20% of the 50 million, which is what? 10 million. So that means in the first year, he earns what? 2 million from his 2% management fee. In the second year, he earns 3 million from his 2% management fee. That's 2% of 150, and 10 million from the increase in value, right? So he has made 13 million for all his work and all his effort. Multiply that by, say, 100 people who give him 100 million each. Now you can very quickly see how asset managers make a lot of money, right? So times 100 is like 1.7 billion, right? So managing these assets. So that 2% and 20, they normally call it 2 and 20. So 2 and 20 tends to be the return or the compensation for asset managers. Okay, that's usually industry standard. A very well top performing manager can sometimes have the guts to take it to 3 and 30. Who watches billions here? Billions? Nobody watches billions. Wow. At what season? Wow. Okay. So billions is based on someone called Stephen Cohen. So you can check him out online. So Stephen Cohen is probably one of the best performing hedge fund managers in the world, right? He doesn't charge 2 and 20, he charges 3 and 30. And you need to have a lot of money to put money in him. So it's like he's balling, man. So called balling. Okay? So cool. That's basically most of what you need to know on portfolio management. Leaves us enough for like a decent interview. The key things are understanding the client. Just to recap, one, understanding the client, understanding the risk tolerance, the investment horizon, and the investor status. And then when it comes to asset allocation, understanding the characteristics of each asset and how it relates to liquidity and risk, because that's what you are balancing against the profile of the client. And the last thing is understanding performance of portfolios, how to determine which asset to put into a portfolio or to leave out of a portfolio, and how you benchmark your portfolio performance against, either the market or other portfolios. Any questions? Yes. Sure. An application, what do you mean?
I just thought, when we have to do the last time, I was thinking of taking an application about
Oh, okay. No, it wasn't for my
that means
class.
if you want, so this whole portfolio management thing,
Yeah,
it's just me as an investor manager
yeah,
thinking about, I'm going to take 100 out of 20, I'll take 10 and put here.
exactly,
So it's not
exactly.
an app.
There are apps for that, yeah. Because like there are people who their job is to calculate that, like for a portfolio of X amount, where you would try to target, where you're trying to target 10% return for somebody with low liquidity, low risk. This is more often the allocation in which you need to put into place, right? So they give you, there are people who are in the back end calculate all these things, and then you have access to that information, and then you make your asset allocation decision. The other part of your job is, yes, stocks. Okay, yes, stocks. But what stocks? Yes, bonds, but which bonds? Right? So there's still a lot of work involved, but like this is all the underlying principle behind the work. You're welcome. Any other question? Yes.
My question is after your interview in Australia,
Okay.
because after I realized now, because if higher service people higher return, lower risk, lower return.
That's a good question. No. So his question is, in real life, is it always like a higher risk investment will give you higher returns, or a lower risk investment will give you lower returns? The answer is no. No. There are some times that you might be fortunate. It rarely happens, but there are some times where people will get across low risk investments that will give them low return. Let me give you an example. Your friend has goods on the high seas. It's an Igbo trader. He has goods on the high seas. The goods are in the port or at the port, right? He has gotten you a letter from the customs that if you pay your customs duty of 1 million naira, the goods will flow out. Sure banker. He has um, letter of intent or purchase invoice from a customer for a spare parts for the 100 million naira worth of goods on the container. So he has brought in 100 million naira worth of goods. It's at the port. The custom says he should pay 2 million to release the goods, but pay 2 million. Sure banker, pay 2 million. Your port money will come out. He has a purchase invoice from somebody who is ready to give him money to buy the full 100 million worth of goods. Risk level is essentially zero, but he's desperate. Give me 2 million bucks, guy. In the next 1 week, I will sell my goods to this guy. I'll pay you 5 million. What's the return on that? Return on that is like 150. Yeah, it's 150% return. Then that's almost like 1,000 and something return annualized, right? But the risk profile is next to zero. So it's low risk, low investment, low risk, high return. Rarely happens, but sometimes those opportunities show up.
But typically, a high risk investment should give you a high return.
On average, yes. On average, yes. Because this is the reason why. Remember this scenario that we painted, right? Sure banker in terms of releasing the goods, sure banker in terms of somebody who will buy the goods. Oga needs just 2 million bucks. He comes to meet, sorry, what's her name? Olumide. Olumide, give me 2 million bucks. Olumide tells him, if I give you 2 million, you pay me 5 million back. Oga vexes. Bullshit. He goes to meet, so what's her name? Toby, yeah, he goes to meet Toby. Toby, same thing. I need 2 million. How much do you want? Remember, Toby, Olumide gave me 5 million. I told him to fuck off. Right? What would be the next most sensible thing for you to do? In terms of how much do you want back? Huh? Thank you. 3. Not interested. Sam, I've had a conversation with these two. Same deal. I told them I'm not interested. Sure banker deal. How much are you willing to collect as a return? What's the most sensible thing for you to say? 5. Go away. 3. Go away. I need 2 million. What's the most sensible thing for you to get? Eh? 2 for 2. That's the most sensible thing. Yeah, very bad investment. So essentially, you're dashing me money. Done. Yes. So you get my point, right? He's gonna shop it around. So if you finally meet somebody like Sam, who's philanthropist, doesn't need any return back, the level of his the return to investor is what? 0%, right? He's going to do that deal. That's the reason why low risk investments usually tend to be low return. Because so many people want in, demand and supply, so many people want in, everybody wants to get their money back. So many people want in that there's going to be competition on, there's going to be competition on, the level of return that they're willing to collect, that it will begin to drive it down, right? It's just that it's very rare to find generous people like Sam that will do an investment for you for nothing, right? Usually this kind of thing would trickle down, up until the point, the lowest benchmark it will get to is what? No. It's an actual value. Percentage return. The lowest percentage return it will get to would be what? No. Why 10%? It just sounded cool. No. No. Analyzed. No. Where are you coming up with these numbers? What would be the minimum return that an investor would be willing to collect? Yeah. What is that called? No, it doesn't. Huh? Exactly. At the end of the day, we all trickle down. The lowest you get is the risk-free rate. Because, yeah, it is. If you told me, that's why when he said 10%, I was like, 10%, where did you get that number from? As me, he told me, well, that's the number of the treasury bill. I said, exactly, that's what I'm looking for. It is an actual figure, right? So everything will trickle down to like the lowest number will be 10%. At that point, nobody in their right mind would give you money for less return than they would collect from the government that is truly 0% risk. You understand that, right? So you see the reason why low risk, low return. Low. Any other questions? Cool. Just in time for your break. Yeah, I think we're actually even done for today. Oh, there's a question online. Yeah. Sure. Sorry, hold on. Yeah? VCPE. Oh, okay. Someone is asking for VCP. So when I wrote VCPE here, so VC stands for venture capital, PE stands for private equity. These are ways in which people can invest in private businesses, which are what? Illiquid and also higher risk, right? So these are tend to be for people that have what type of investment horizon? Longer investment horizon. VC stands for venture capital, PE, and which is usually money invested in younger early stage companies. PE stands for private equity, which is money invested in older private companies, more stable private companies. Any other question? Yes. Olumide. Yes.
So why would you say the US government has a different return from their bonds?
Yes.
Why in Nigeria has a 12.5%?
That is a fantastic question. So Olumide's question is, if governments are considered zero risk or low risk, why do we have differences in the rates of return of different government bonds? Good. Now, within that country, that government is considered low risk. But outside the country, when you take the whole world, the level of risk of different governments vary because there have historically been situations where governments do not pay their debts. It happened in Argentina, it happened in Greece, thank you, Venezuela, plenty cases like that. So if you look at the world as a whole, Nigeria hasn't defaulted on debt. And Nigeria never defaulted on debt. I have enough minutes. So if you took the world as a whole, who is more likely to pay you your money back? So why is the US government more likely to pay your money back? No. Hands up, somebody, specific answer. Why is the US government more likely to pay your money back? Yes.
Because when you imagine it this way, if all governments default, like everyone is still going to run to the US because they see that it's strong economy. A strong economy.
You can answer the question better. Yes. So what does that mean? What does that mean? It's a very simple answer. They are making more money than everybody else. Where are you paying your debt from? You're paying your debt from, well, not necessarily, you can say from like, to make it simple, from generated revenue that the country generates, right? That's where you're paying your debts from, right? The US obviously makes a lot more money than Nigeria, right? Obviously. So it's more likely that they are more likely to pay their debt. It's like, who would you rather loan money to? A guy that earns 70K a month, or a guy that earns 1.2 million a month. Assuming they both ask you for 100 naira. Who would you rather loan your 100 naira to? The guy that has 1.2, he wouldn't have changed. Oh, the 70K guy, he wouldn't have changed. He won't have changed, exactly. So it's the same thing. But it means that within Nigeria, right, who is more likely to pay you back your money. It's the Nigerian government, because Nigerian government within Nigeria will just go and print money and give it to you. You get. So, but the reason why you have those differences is because, as a whole, if you consider like the world economy, some countries are richer than others, and obviously are less risky in terms of like revenue. Yes, Della. Uh, any other question? You don't go and read about inflation and what causes inflation. I believe we had a class about that as well, right? So go and read about that and then let's discuss it. So there are two people who will make assignments. Hedge funds, what they are, and why you can't just print money and how it relates to inflation. Please remind me. No, just the two of them. Just the two of them. Saturday's class. Remind me on Saturday's class. Anything else? Any other question? Sorry, you have a question? Any other question? Any other question? Yes, you have a question, sorry. Any questions online too?
Instagram and they are all people that advertise on YouTube. So they have content. I want to know if those content they have are being generated like to affect their own economy.
Okay. If I understand your question correctly, your question is, do the jokes of popular comedians affect economies? The answer is more often no. The reason is because the jokes have happened, jokes come after the event happens. You understand? People whose utterances can affect an economy are usually people who their utterances happen before the event happens. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, for example, somebody whose utterance can affect an economy is the president of a country. He announces a policy before the policy is implemented. What will have the effect is the policy. You understand what I'm saying? So it's the utterance before the event that has an impact. The CBN governor announces, his utterances are important because he announces the interest rates before the interest rates get put into effect. So that's why utterances are powerful. You understand what I'm saying? Do you understand my point now? But a comedian jokes about past events. He jokes about something that has already happened. So the effects have already felt. That is what he's joking about. What usually moves the market, for something to move the market, it's something that is about to happen. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It's usually something that is about to happen. The CEO announcing numbers, right? Yes, the CEO announcing numbers, like the numbers have already happened, yes, but nobody knows about it. So as far as everybody is concerned, we just discovered the numbers, the profit numbers for this company. That's what moves the market. Not just because somebody famous said something. You understand what I'm saying? Cool. Any other question? Yes. In the instance of yes.
So what I think was one of the Kardashians that made a statement and made the shares of this person
So the thing is, so what happened in that regard was she announced to people to leave Snapchat.
She just said something that
Yeah, essentially, yeah. It wasn't like she announced to people to leave Snapchat. She just I think forgot the specifics of what happened. Who else? Yeah, exactly. That's the same thing as announcing. You're telling people that this thing is just like announcing. Who else uses BBM? Who else uses BBM? You basically announce like, what are you doing with BBM? It's time to leave. You understand? So that's the reason why what she said had an effect, right? But that rarely happens. It's not usually market moving. It's the same thing that happened with, like, say, hashtag delete Uber, right? So if Uber was a publicly traded company and everybody was saying hashtag delete Uber, delete Uber, delete Uber, Uber's stock market price would have plunged, right? But the truth is, does it have a long-term effect? Many of people who deleted Uber still went back to download Uber because they need rides. The stock market price would have gone back up. Okay? Yes. Insurance bonds. Insurance funds. What do you mean by insurance funds? Yes. So why is a pension fund a pension fund? Let's go down to first principles. You're looking for another assignment. Don't worry. I don't want to discourage you from asking questions. When I give another assignment, you stop asking questions. What makes a pension fund a pension fund? Who are the people that pull resources for pension funds? No.
They borrow from,
From who?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
For example, ARA,
Good. Yes. That's a good place to start. Yes.
it's portfolio manager.
Where does ARM pensions get their money from? Get the money they invest from? Who are their clients? In exactly. So people put their pension contribution into ARM's accounts for ARM to invest. So a pension fund basically pulls pension contributions from people's pension contributions to invest. That's what a pension fund does. So using that analogy, a fund just basically has pooled money from different sources to invest. What do you mean? What do you mean by an insurance fund?
Insurance company, including resources,
Where are the resources coming from?
their clients,
What are the clients giving them money for?
insurance,
What's that called? Premiums. Exactly. So they're not necessarily called insurance. Well, I'm not even sure. I'm not sure they're called insurance funds. They might be called insurance funds. But insurance funds are similar to pension funds in the sense that they have accumulated funds from premiums, right? And they then invest those funds in the market. But they differ from pension funds because with pension funds, it is the return, they are investing that money on behalf of their clients. When you give somebody your pension contribution, your pension contribution is essentially like, take this money, make more money for, grow it for me so that by the time I retire, I have money to spend. You understand what I'm saying? So the pension fund is investing on behalf of the person who makes the pension contribution. In the case of the insurance company, they are not investing on behalf of the person who bought insurance. They are investing on behalf of themselves. The contract between the person who made the pension contribution and the pension fund is take 100 naira, make me 200 naira, so that when I retire, I will see 200 naira to spend. The contract between the insurance, the insured, sorry, the contract between the insured and the insurance company is, I'll give you 100 naira if I crash my car, you give me the money to repair my car. But if I don't, the money is yours, right? There's nothing like, there's no agreement that's like, you must make me back so and so money. I don't know if you understand my point. So that's the key difference between the two. So the pension fund is investing on behalf of the pension contributors. The insurance fund is investing on behalf of itself because it knows that that person can call for their money back. So they must use their fund to make more money to keep to themselves. Okay? Cool. And yes, question from online, from the online.
How do you forecast the value of an asset?
How do you forecast the value of an asset. Yes. Did you have an example there?
Like
Okay.
the value of an asset is currently 21 naira after two.
Okay. Good question. So his question is, how do you value, or how do you forecast or predict the value of an asset? The short answer to that is that's the job of the research department, and it's outside the scope of our presentation. Usually the research department can look at macroeconomic trends, the level of scarcity of something, and all these other pieces of information, and then use it to determine whether an asset is going to be more valuable. So, for example, when it comes to something like artwork, they could forecast that, oh, everybody is getting excited by Rembrandts, but Oga Rembrandt only painted three, only made three paintings. That means the Rembrandt is going to increase in value. You understand what I'm saying? So those there are various methods based on the type of asset. But that's some people's data. Any other question? Any questions from here? No? Good. Alright guys.